A moment of truth for Seve Ballesteros, a man driven by a passionate and consuming ambition to be the best. Winning his third Open Championship at Royal Lytham St Anne's in 1988 meant more than another glittering prize. He had proved to the world and to himself that he had it in him to be one of the greatest golfers ever. It must have given him huge satisfaction because it was at Lytham 9 years before that he won his first Open. He was only 22, the youngest champion this century. A few months later, his natural talent, his power and ambition won him the first of his 2 US Masters titles. Passionate, always. Controversial, often. Dull, never. He's become the most exciting player in the world, and the crowds love him for it. In the cut and thrust of world match play, he's reigned supreme throughout the 80s. In the Ryder Cup, he was the driving force in the team that beat the United States in 1985 and went on to make history by retaining the trophy on American soil. The first time the world saw the Ballesteros magic was at Royal Birkdale in 1976. He was only 19. It was his first Open, and at the halfway stage he was 2 shots ahead at the top of the leaderboard. He was relaxed and supremely confident on the final day, despite the pressure of being chased by men who'd been his heroes since he first picked up a golf club. Great champions like Jack Nicklaus, Ray Floyd,
Good one, Ray.
And Johnny Miller. Ballesteros' second shot to the last green.
Hit it well, but he's dragged it. We'll never see the end of that. He's got to get that birdie if he's going to tie with Jack Nicklaus, and what a difficult little shot he's got. He's got to chip it between those bunkers with the flag only 6 or 7 yards on the green the other side. And the cheeky lad, he's run it through the middle and played an absolute gem of a stroke.
Seve had displayed a coolness and nerve beyond his years, the characteristically bold stroke giving a glimpse of the greatness to come. Miller won by 2 strokes. Ballesteros had this to tie with Nicklaus for second place.
Straight in the middle. What a prospect for the future, and what an exciting end to this championship.
The famous, some would say infamous, railway hole at Royal Lytham. It's been the graveyard of many American Open dreams. In 1979, with a relentless northwest wind whipping across the links, only Hale Irwin and Ben Crenshaw battled through. Out of sight, but not for long, Seve Ballesteros.
Marvellous shot, which spins off the green just to the edge of the fairway, some 12 yards from the hole. Irwin fading a little now, 2 over par, Ballesteros needing to get down in 2 to stay level with par and with Crenshaw. Gives it a bump up the slope. Oh, and the young matador is absolutely delighted. And why not? Against all the odds, he takes the outright lead yet again and can't wait to get to the next hole.
But there he dropped a shot to go back to 2 under.
Just 2 strokes in it, and there's Ballesteros' tee shot on its way at the 15th, and that's going well to the left, way, way to the left. Ballesteros under great pressure. He's level par and in trouble at the 15th. He's got it up some 35, 40 yards short of the flag, but needs to get down in 2 from off the green for his par 4. An awkward chip. Wonderful touch from Ballesteros and great nerve. And he remains level par and still the leader by 2 strokes.
and then mark that spot, and then you have 2 club lengths from there. It's very strange.
So, very delicate situation, and all the rules being applied absolutely correctly. Ballesteros now has found the true spot to drop, and how lucky he has been to be able to get that sort of lie from that wild tee shot. It's still a difficult shot, though, across the green. And it's a good one. The gods are smiling on this young man today. He's been rather wayward and got away with it all so far. 2 putts from here to remain 2 ahead. And he only needs 1. Well, the golfing gods really are with the smiling Spaniard today. Would you believe it, in trouble yet again at the 17th. This is the 15th time he's been in a greenside bunker during this championship.
So only 2 shots in the lead now. Ballesteros was in trouble again off the tee at the next hole.
Well, that's the first signs of caution we've seen from the young man. Erwin coming through the crowd and surrendering. And somewhere back in the mass, Ballesteros still battling his way through.
No sign of nerves now as he faced a very long putt and put it dead. That made him the youngest golfer since 1868 to win the Open. A new star was born. His brothers couldn't contain their joy.
Please. He hasn't yet recorded. He hasn't yet recorded. Come on, Seve. Well done.
A performance that had been as brilliant as it was erratic. A final round that may never be equalled for its daring and adventure. Been as brilliant as it was erratic. A final round that may never be equalled for its daring and adventure.
And how will you celebrate tonight with your brothers and the rest of the family?
Well, I know usually I don't drink.
But I think you will tonight.
I think I will tonight, yeah.
Seve had captured everybody's attention by, you know, how long can he keep it up? How many more times can he go over the chestnut fencing into this place and into that place and keep coming back? And, of course, they loved him for it. And it was the thing that dreams are made of.
In full flow, Seve certainly was. He went into the final day 13 under par. Assuming he could keep his nerve and control his emotions, he would become only the second non-American to win the title. Marching on through Georgia with Jack Newton at 6 under par, the closest there was to a challenge. Even the American commentators were beginning to run out of superlatives.
And what a glorious shot it is. To go 15 under.
But the notorious Rays Creek and Amen Corner, so often the downfall of those who think, mistakenly, they have the measure of Augusta, were lying in wait.
And that ball is in Rays Creek. And that's not all. Seve is now going to have to conjure up some sort of a miracle pitch shot to make even a bogey. bogey to stay 6 ahead of his playing partner. No, sir. Double bogey. He's still got plenty in hand, of course, but that certainly hasn't done anything for his nervous system. Seve to the 13th with a 3-iron. Oh, no, Rays Creek again. Maybe Seve's still having trouble getting himself together after that double bogey. And maybe, just maybe, this Masters isn't over with yet. With the penalty, this will be Seve's 4th shot, which raises the possibility of a 3-stroke swing again, right here. Not bad, but not dead either. This to stay 4 ahead of Newton, 5 ahead of Gilbert. A big bogey, which means that Seve has now dropped 7 shots to his closest pursuer over the last 4 holes. And that, folks, has to be as graphic an example as you'll ever see of how Amen Corner earns and keeps its sinister name and reputation. And there it is, comfortably parring number 16 and 17. And here triumphantly number 18, Seve Ballesteros, 23 years and 4 days old of Santander, Spain, plays 1/3 of the 72 holes under par, a record. And the par 4 holes, 6 under par, another record, to become both the youngest winner of the Masters and the first from Europe. Severiano Ballesteros, the 1980 Masters champion. Olé, indeed.
The weather was certainly European at Augusta in the spring of 1983. Play was completely washed out as storms swept across the American South. Rays Creek had become a torrent. But they worked long and hard to keep the Masters alive. And when the sun came out, it was shining again on Seve. He was leading the championship, chased by Tom Watson.
And isn't this just the most unbelievable golf? 2 feet at the very most. Seve has to go with the longish iron. And it looks absolutely dead on the pin. Oh, my goodness gracious. Where does a man get the moxie to hit a shot like that at a moment like this? For birdie, to match the one Watson just made here the orthodox way. Oh, and did he want that one?
As 3 years earlier, the final holes yielded to the Ballesteros magic, and it became another march of triumph. He had answered the critics and the doubters, but more than that, he had inspired a new generation of European golfers. In the years to come, America would see just how strong a revival that was to be. Now, as Seve strode towards his 3rd major title, they were about to see one of the most memorable finishes ever at the Masters.
And almost as though scripted in Hollywood, the manner of his finale superbly exemplifies the man and his game. The strength to be bold, the courage to dare, the self-control to err, and then, above all else, the intelligence, the skill, and the nerveless touch to recover brilliantly.
St Andrews, the home of golf, July 1984, and the stage was set for another gripping performance by Seve. And which golfer wouldn't want to win the Open here?
I've no doubt that the oldest championship in the world, played at the oldest course in the world as we know it, must be the ultimate satisfaction. And again, the way he did it.
It was vintage Ballesteros, and on the final day, another battle royal with Tom Watson. Seve needed this for the outright lead. The last two dramatic holes would decide it.
Well, he's been over par at this hole every day so far. 461 yards, a par 4. And what a daunting drive over the outline of the old black railway shed. You can go as far right as you dare towards the new Golf and Country Club. That's a safe line, way to the left. So they're now approaching one of the most formidable second shots in golf. Lying all right, but not a very good line in over the bunker if he's going to go right at the pin, and of course the road and the stone wall waiting for him behind. Back on the tee, Tom Watson arrives and waits to drive. Seve's shot, about 200 yards. And believe it or not, that was a 6-iron, smashed with every sinew in his body. It digs in, it runs forward. It stops, and that's a bit of magic. A 6-iron from there is quite incredible. It mustn't take more than 2. A smooth stroke indeed. Right to the hole side. A little tap in, a casual tap in. A par 4, and Ballesteros stays 11 under. Seve looks back up the fairway and sees that Watson, having thought he might be out of bounds, is in fact in the perfect spot down the right-hand side of the fairway. He's got a 2-iron in his hand. Still tying for the lead. But Watson seems uncharacteristically indecisive. And that's a full-blooded hit from Watson, and he looks slightly agitated. Oh, disaster for Watson. That's over the road, up against the wall. Both features are integral parts of the old course, and there's no free relief from there. He'll have to play it as it lies. Just a jab and a punch and across the road and skips up the bank, and it could come back off that slope.
Watson's hopes of a 6th Open title died here on the 17th. On the 18th green, Seve was putting for a birdie, a course record, and victory.
The putt, to me, never looks like it's going in. But because it was the 18th green and because it was what it was, it almost has a mind of its own and finds a way to get into the hole. I mean, and I think that typifies what you can achieve if you believe, and what Seve has to do most weeks of his life. You believe you're going to do this, and I think there's powers out there that lots of us don't really know about, and I think Seve...
The South African Nick Price stood determinedly between Seve and the 1988 Open title for 2 days, with a masterly display of chipping and putting. The big names waited for Price to crack. He didn't.
An eventful day for Ballesteros. He tangled with a cameraman, was given the runaround by a rabbit, and when he landed in the bushes, he didn't get very far. he was also distracted by a marshal.
Looks like you're surrendering.
But there's no surrender from Seve. The crowd are behind him, and he's well in contention as long as the luck remains. 3 big grins launched the Open's final round. The question, whose would disappear first? In the event, it was Faldo's. On the 7th, it all started to go the wrong way. As he cursed, Ballesteros settled down to play what he described as the best round of his life. For 10 holes, Nick Price stayed in front. His putting hardly wavered. On the 11th, though, Ballesteros came out of the shadows and into the lead. It lit the first sunshine smile of the Open. But the remarkable Price responded by lifting his game still higher. Not high enough to beat Ballesteros, though. On the 16th, he produced the shot that won the Open. Ballesteros walked down the 18th, the shot in front. The packed galleries roared their support, and it ended with a touch of genius. A tap-in for par, a 65. It equalled his own course record.
Well, it was nice to be back after 9 years from my first victory, and you know, I just like to say that thank you to the people, that they really support me a lot, and they really make me feel like at home, you know, and it was very nice.
Seve was back at the top. Wentworth in October, tailor-made for the swashbuckling Seve style and for another chapter in the Ballesteros success story.
My shot?
Through the 80s, few could challenge his superiority as world match play champion. He won it 4 years out of 5. It's the sort of contest he revels in. Head-to-head, victory to the brave.
Match play is kill or be killed. I mean, you don't tee it up tomorrow. It's not the first round of a tournament that you can come back and improve on tomorrow. You get beat and you go home. And there's an element of his makeup that the killer instinct is there. The protection of the reputation is there.
It was Bernard Langer's threat to his reputation as Europe's best golfer which surfaced so vividly during their match play battles. In 1985, Langer, his Ryder Cup teammate, had beaten him at the Masters. Seve badly wanted revenge.
Ballesteros was shooting no great golf himself, just nice and steady, allowing his opponent to make the mistakes. The somewhat lethargic Langer now seemed as lost as the babes in the wood. Another hole conceded. It was always the Spaniard who seemed able to find the most direct route to the green as he stretched his lead to 5 holes. While the German just sank deeper and deeper into trouble. Ballesteros still managed moments of brilliance to brighten an otherwise disappointing final. In the end, they finished like 2 punch-drunk fighters, still reeling from their Ryder Cup triumph, which had sapped both mind and body. Once more, the 2 great rivals were united as European teammates.
Well, I think it's always nice to beat the best player in the world in 1985.
And you think Bernard is that?
I think so. This year, he's the best player in the world.
So Ballesteros, world match play champion for the 4th time in 5 years, rounded off Europe's great golfing...